Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Lori Johnson. Today, Israel considering a strike on Iran's nuclear facilities. We'll look at why this may be the right time and why it would be so difficult. Plus, what's happening with Christians in Iran. President-elect Donald Trump's election has now been officially certified, and once he takes office, will he pardon some of the rioters from January 6th in 2021? Foreign money funding antisemitism in U.S. universities. We'll look at these funds aimed to influence decisions and attitudes at these schools. And during a time of deep political division in the U.S., we'll hear from two Christian leaders who say the gospel provides a way to bridge the divide. Those stories and more today on NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
We begin in the Middle East, where Israeli officials have been considering the possibility of a strike on Iran's nuclear facilities. They warned such an attack would be extremely difficult, but the New York Post reports Israel is willing to take that action if necessary, since President-elect Donald Trump has not objected to a strike. The paper reports, quote, now with Tehran severely weakened following more than a year of conflict, insiders tell the Post Israel is desperate to wipe out Iran's nuclear capabilities by force if necessary. Our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell is here with us for more. Chris, we've been talking about a possible Israeli strike on Iran's nuclear facilities for years and years, but it seems like some Israeli officials believe now is the time. Tell us more about why.
Well, there's a number of factors that have come together, Lori, that really kind of make it a perfect storm for Israel to go ahead and attack Iran's nuclear facilities. First of all, there's been for the first time actually in decades, there was actually direct conflict between Israel and Iran last year. It happened first in April. It happened again in October. On October 26th, Israel was able to wipe out much of Iran's air defenses. And then in addition to that, during the takeover of the Syrian government from Bashar Assad, Israel was able to eliminate much of Syria's air defenses. So militarily right now, it's almost as if they have a clear path all the way from Israel into Iran to destroy their nuclear facilities. In addition to that, it seems like Iran is really on the back foot in many ways. Hamas, their proxy in Gaza, has mainly defeated. Same thing with Hezbollah. Same thing, and to some degree, with the Houthis down in Yemen. And so all of these factors are contributing to the sense that maybe this is the time. We have talked about this, as you said, for decades, but maybe this seems a likely time when all these factors are coming together that make it possible that Israel could attack Iran's nuclear facilities.
So why would it be so difficult?
Well, it's so difficult because Iran, knowing that Israel did something in 1981. They took out Saddam Hussein's nuclear reactor. In 2007, they took out a nuclear plant that Bashar Assad was building. So what they did is that they took all their nuclear facilities and separated them throughout the country. So it makes it you can't just hit one facility, you have to hit several. So that's what makes it so hard. In addition to that, Iran has built much of these facilities deep underground, sometimes under a mountain. So that makes it physically difficult that Israel would be able to go ahead and attack these and be able to degrade it to such an extent that it would really degrade and put Iran's nuclear facilities program back several years. And just understand, Lori, to Israel, this is an existential threat.
Yes.
Iran has talked over and over, almost on a daily basis, to destroy not only the little Satan Israel, but the great Satan, the United States. But Israel is just so close, and they consider that, an existential threat.
So reportedly, President-elect Donald Trump could support such a strike, but how would the rest of the world react?
Well, I think the rest of the world wouldn't react that much. I mean, I think people understand that that Israel has been talking about this, preparing for this for many years. I think people understand some of the nations in the region. For example, first of all, in the region, I think Saudi Arabia, the UAE, the Sunni Gulf states would actually appreciate this, and because they are also an enemy of Iran, and they see this as an existential threat to them. I don't think nations like Russia and China would actually get into a conflict, direct conflict, because of what Israel does, especially if they have the support of President Trump and the United States.
So there's a big difference between the government of Iran and its people. How do you think the people of Iran feel about this? Do they still want their government overthrown?
They do. I think the majority of the people in Iran want their government overthrown, and I think they would prefer Israel to go ahead and do that. In fact, you see some literally writing on the wall inside Iran that people would ask Israel to go ahead and destroy the nuclear sites, which could help undermine the regime there in Tehran.
And speaking of the people of Iran, what about the Christian community there? What's going on with them?
Well, it's a great question, Lori, and I think people in the West need to understand that there's really a great revival that's been going on inside Iran. Many people are coming to faith through Jesus Christ, through dreams and visions. We've interviewed a number of them, or several of them, and it's really exciting what Holy Spirit is doing to many of these people in bringing them to faith. It's a very, very oppressive regime, and despite that, there are people that are coming to faith and really exhibiting such tremendous faith in light of great opposition.
Yes, tremendous faith and tremendous courage. So talk about Jerusalem Dateline. You have a new one today. What's it
We have a new
about?
one today, and part of that is going to be, we did an interview with Gordon yesterday. We're going to, for those that may not have seen it on the 700 Club, we're going to be sharing some of that, as well as some of the updates, the stories that are happening, what's going on with Turkey, and what's happening in the region right now. Lori, there's really such amazing, profound geopolitical, historic, and even biblical changes that are going on in the Middle East right now. It's so important for people to be praying for the people of Iran, the people in the region, especially the Christians in Syria right now. It's a very dangerous time for them, and praying for the peace of Jerusalem.
Absolutely. Well, our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief, Chris Mitchell, thanks as always for your insights. And you can see the latest Jerusalem Dateline at 8 p.m. Eastern on the CBN News channel. You can also watch on the CBN News app or on YouTube. Well, here at home, a massive winter storm Monday did not stop Congress from formally certifying Donald Trump's presidential victory. It comes 4 years after hundreds of Trump supporters attacked the Capitol on January 6th. Trump has promised to pardon some of his supporters who were charged for their actions that day. CBN's Wendy Griffith has that story.
The outcome of the 2024 presidential election now official. Donald Trump declared the winner Monday, the votes counted, and the results certified before a joint session of Congress.
Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 312 votes. Kamala D. Harris of the state of California has received 226 votes.
Vice President Kamala Harris, who lost to Trump, presided over the ceremony as president of the Senate.
Today, I did what I have done my entire career, performing my constitutional duties to ensure that the people of America, the voters of America, will have their votes counted.
The process was peaceful and orderly, with no objections.
This is a great day for the country. We're going to certify the election of Donald J. Trump as the 47th president. That's our focus today.
The Capitol under heavy security for the event after the disruption in 2020. This was the scene 4 years ago when angry Trump supporters clashed with police and illegally entered the Capitol, believing the election had been stolen. On January 6, 2021, Trump urged protesters to march to the Capitol, calling on then Vice President Mike Pence to reject the results of the 2020 election. More than 1,200 people have been convicted or pled guilty to charges tied to the attack. Trump has promised to pardon some, calling them political prisoners.
Pardoning the criminals who assaulted police officers and tried to halt the democratic process would be a dangerous endorsement of political violence.
Inside Elections' Nathan Gonzalez told CBN's Faith Nation, pardons or not, he hopes history will view January 6, 2021 as a stain on our country.
We came very close to not having a peaceful transfer of power, which is a hallmark of our country. And so whether President Trump pardons folks or not, I hope that it does not diminish what happened and the severity of the violence that happened on January 6, 2021.
Unlike 4 years ago, there were no objections or challenges to the election results. President-elect Trump claims his win is a mandate from the American people to implement his agenda. He'll be sworn in as the nation's 47th president on Monday, January 20th. Wendy Griffith, CBN News.
Coming up, who's funding anti-Semitism at our universities? Colleges are getting billions from foreign countries. Much of it is going unreported. CBN News takes you down the money trail when we come back. American universities receive hundreds of millions of dollars in foreign donations. Much of it is unreported, which is a violation of federal regulations. The funds aren't just gifts. They often aim to influence decisions and attitudes at these schools, especially when it comes to Israel. Gary Lane reports.
For more than a century, the American Association of College Professors stood out as a defender of academic freedom by resisting boycotts. Last summer, however, the group shifted that approach, stating the association would support academic boycotts. Campus Reform's Ken Tashi believes this move is connected to anti-Semitism.
It's no coincidence that they changed their view and perspective on this issue soon after the terrorist attacks on Israel by Hamas terrorists. It's also no coincidence that their new position now aligns themselves with the campus protesters and the protests that we saw rage across campuses last spring.
An academic boycott occurs when an educational institution or organization refuses to engage with other colleges and universities because of institutional or governmental policies they find disagreeable. The AACP defended its policy shifts, stating, quote, "Academic boycotts are not in themselves violations of academic freedom and can instead be legitimate tactical responses to conditions that are fundamentally incompatible with the mission of higher education."
Well, frankly, in any other country. So the question becomes, why now? And I think the answer is because it is an effort to further that anti-Israel sentiment. It also aligns them now with the views of the BDS movement, the boycott, sanction, and divestment movement that has been called for across the country by a variety of organizations, including Students for the Justice in Palestine.
The BDS movement promotes academic boycotts of Israeli universities, accusing them of being, quote, "major, willing, and persistent accomplices in Israel's regime of occupation, settler colonialism, and apartheid." Last spring, a college professor in Pennsylvania was fired, while other universities investigated and suspended professors for pro-Hamas and anti-Israel activism. Their advocacy in and out of the classroom raised new concerns about foreign funding of universities and overseas influence on American academia. Neetu Arnold is a Paulson policy analyst and researcher at the Manhattan Institute.
I found that universities had failed to report $1 billion in foreign money, and much of the misreporting was from countries like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Turkey, primarily countries that are authoritarian.
And that are traditionally anti-Israel. Section 117 of the Higher Education Act requires universities to report foreign funds with a monetary value of $250,000 or more within a calendar year. Over the 2 terms of the Obama presidency, Arnold discovered that only $1.8 billion of the $3.9 billion available was reported, which means that 54% went unreported. During the Biden administration, 39% of $3 billion in reportable donations went unreported. Texas A&M is currently among the universities that Arnold claims have violated the law by underreporting foreign donations that exceed $250,000.
During the Trump administration, the university was in compliance. They were reporting their foreign funds. And then after the Trump administration left, I looked at their reporting for Chinese contracts, and it turned out that they just weren't reporting any of them.
Last January, Texas A&M President Mark A. Walsh III released a statement saying, quote, Texas A&M complies with all U.S. laws and agency regulations that govern how we manage and report international engagements. Additionally, Arnold maintains the origins of these foreign donations can be unclear. For example, ByteDance, the Chinese parent company of TikTok, makes donations that would not be identified as coming from communist China. Arnold discovered that the University of South Dakota reported a 2021 gift from ByteDance, which is incorporated in the Cayman Islands. She notes that because the company is not based in China, the university incorrectly assumed the donation freed China from potential influence.
I think it's so important to know who is donating to our universities and the purpose, whether it's going for cancer research or is it going to influence our curriculum.
Or seeking to buy influence through support of Chinese Confucius centers or Middle East studies departments. In terms of a potential solution, Arnold believes the incoming Trump administration must prioritize the investigation and enforcement of universities that violate the law.
And again, I think that's why it's so important that we have transparency, that there is enforcement, and that we're actually aware of these transactions in a timely manner.
Knowledge that can expose and prevent foreign influence that often stokes hate, violence, and anti-Semitism on American college campuses. Gary Lane, CBN News.
Still ahead, Americans have been deeply politically divided in recent years. CBN News spoke with two Christian leaders on both sides who point to the gospel as a way to bridge the gap. We'll hear from them right after this. The political divide here in America remains both deep and wide. Unfortunately, that can have a negative impact within families, communities, and even the church. Many people are hoping for healing to bring back a sense of unity to our country. Charlene Aaron spoke with two Christians from opposite sides of the political aisle who point to the gospel bond as the way forward.
Look, everybody knows I'm a friend of Donald Trump's. They know I support him very much.
I've been in the Democratic Party most of my life.
Justin Giboney, founder of the AND campaign, and Dr. Robert Jeffress of First Baptist Church Dallas took vastly different paths into the world of politics. Differences they shared with me on CBN's Prayer Link.
I had very little involvement in politics the first 20 years of my ministry, but it all changed when a member brought to me some library books from our public library. They were pro-homosexual books written to persuade children into that kind of lifestyle. And she said, what are you going to do about this? We as believers have a responsibility to push back against evil wherever we can.
Giboney credits the message and meaning of civil rights for driving his interest.
Early on, my grandfather, who was a preacher himself, taught me that, when it comes to people having their rights, people being treated fairly, you couldn't go into politics and just fight for yourself, that you also wanted to make sure that you fought for others.
The two also shared their thoughts on interpreting the biblical response to certain social issues, such as the southern border crisis.
It doesn't prescribe what immigration policy should be, but there are some things the Bible speaks very clearly about. And I base my politics, or for whom I vote, based on what the Bible says.
I agree that the Bible might not speak specifically on what our immigration policy should be, but I would say that it would have something to say about the humanity of that policy and how we treat the least of these and the stranger.
Discussions on issues like this have led to bitter debate and anger among believers, with some questioning the faith of those whose views differ from their own. A sentiment both Jeffress and Giboney agree hurts the gospel message.
I don't think it's to say you vote for one person, then you're automatically not a faithful Christian. We need to stop pointing the finger as much and try to understand people. We may disagree with them, but until we understand the good they're trying to get at, we really don't know.
I think especially it's an egregious sin to demonize fellow believers. Revelation 12 says Satan is the accuser of the brethren. And when we slander another Christian, we ascribe the worst motives to them possible. We're doing Satan's work for him.
Even so, both leaders believe it is important for Christians to vote and engage in politics. They add, however, the key is modeling humility, respect, and civility, while highlighting the unity of the church.
The saying is a good one for Christians to remember today. In the essentials, unity. In the non-essentials, liberty. But in all things, charity. And I think the Church of Jesus Christ needs to be built around a common foundation. It's not a political platform, but it's faith in Jesus Christ.
We have a whole lot in common, whether it be the Great Commission, the Great Commandment, and so on. We need to find that common ground if we could ever expect the world to do the same.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Coming up, despite political division, people in Washington came together Monday for one longtime tradition, a snowball fight. We'll bring you a look when we come back. As snow returns to Washington, D.C., so does this local tradition. The first snowfall of 2025 brings up to an unexpected half a foot of snow in parts of D.C., just in time for the beloved annual Snowball fight. This year, dubbed the Great Meridian Chill Battle of 2025, hundreds of people gathered at Meridian Hill Park yesterday morning, wearing their winter weather gear and snowball-making gloves. The battle is organized by the D.C. Snowball Fight Association. It marks the 15th anniversary of the event and the organization's attempt to snowballize the masses. Looks like fun. Well, that's it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News channel anytime or online with cbnnews.com. Also, tell us what you think about the stories you've seen by emailing newswatch@cbn.com or talk to us on Facebook, Instagram, or X. We hope you'll join us again next time. Have a great day, everyone.